Hello and welcome to another episode of The Living Philosophy, and this is call it a special episode rather than a cop out. I was supposed to do this week's episode was supposed to be on Ken Wilber's Four Quadrants, and I was writing and I just got overwhelmed because like there's so many. I just bit off more than I could chew. There's so many different moving parts to it, and I was just like, how do I organize this? So I'm going to take another week to try and figure out how to do that one best because yeah, I've had that in the past where I'm just overwhelmed with information, but I normally just like, actually just do it. But this one is like, I think it's really important to get this episode right because it puts so much of what I think we're going to be doing on the channel in context and trying to like give the right perspective on what's going on. So bear with me on that one. But it provides a good excuse to do something that I've been putting off for some time because so when I started the channel, and I was making the 100 videos in 100 days, I was like, well, no one wants to hear what I think about things because, you know, I'm just a random person on the internet. So it was always about the content. And I didn't really know how to bridge between like doing something that's just about content versus kind of giving my opinion on it. I didn't really want someone to come to a video like first time in the channel, something like metamodernism or phenomenology, and for it to be just all my opinions, for them to be like, oh, why is half this video this guy I've never seen before talking about phenomenology? This isn't what I signed up for. So I kind of held off on doing it, and then I was like, I should probably like start integrating a bit, and just never really figured out how. So I was thinking about setting up a second channel maybe to do this, but I think so I was going to set up this channel called The Living Philosopher where I would do stuff like that, kind of more personal stuff, and do more like personal development, or you know, the fact that like what's going on in my life. Like I'm moving to Athens. I haven't mentioned that in the channel yet because I'm like, where do I put that? So yeah, I'm moving to Athens, or I'm going to Athens in a couple of weeks, so or next week I guess. So yeah, that's there's the announcement. And yeah, I was thinking about having a second channel to do that, but now I'm just like, no. Okay, this, like, I think it's important to comment on what I'm doing with the channel, or why we're making these videos, or why the choice of content. And so I thought it would be interesting to do reaction videos to my own videos in typical YouTube form. I probably won't do actual me looking at myself talking, but you know, I thought it's important to contextualize what I'm talking about, and I imagine there's a few of you who would like to kind of understand that and like to see where I'm coming from and why I think that the overarching structure to this is. So that's kind of what this series of videos is about, and you'll be able to know them by. There'll be a cartoonified version of me in there, and I'm sure a lot of people will have no time for that, but that's fine. That's fine as well. But if you like the videos and you're into this kind of thing, then I'm planning on putting these out more regularly and probably early access on Patreon. I've tried doing that with the regular videos on Patreon, trying to get them up, but to be honest, I'm usually just drowning enough in the content and in the creation of it that I'm still there, right? I'm uploading it on the Sunday, so I haven't been as consistent as I'd like with that. Whereas I think with this, I'll be able to be more consistent and get it up on Patreon a bit earlier and kind of just have a bit more of a different type of conversation over there. And I'm also going to start doing the Patreon Q&As. Which something else I've kind of been procrastinating because I'm like, I don't really know how to do that. So for the patrons, there'll be an announcement about that in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, as you could probably tell, I don't really the vision of the channel still isn't fully formed. So it's still something clicking together there. I'm still figuring out what I'm doing, and so the way I think of it, the channel is still in its infancy, and I like that idea of it being a marathon rather than a sprint. And long term, I would like the channel, as you have known if you watched the 10,000 videos, I want it to be more than just an educational channel. I want it to turn into its own school of philosophy and actually have some kind of an effect on the world and have a deep lasting effect on people's lives. So yeah, we'll figure that out as we go along. But this video is about Jordan B. Peterson, well, the shadow of Jordan B. Peterson. And I don't really, this was an interesting video because it's this and Buddhism were the Buddhism video from the previous week. They're a bit more polemical than the normal videos I make. It was a bit more of like just trying to like put something out there that is trying to like thread a line, I guess. And Yeah, like, so normally when I post a video, so I posted this on the Monday and I was gassed out from it, so I was just like, I need to take a break. Normally when I put a video up, I'll try and like keep on top of the comments and keep responding and see what's going on, reply to as many as I can. But this one quickly got out of control where I didn't go on till the next evening. And yeah, there was just so many comments from Cassandra Kairos, and I was like, oh my god, this person is fucking nuts. Like, of course, that could be my shadow. That's probably my shadow. But yeah, I was just like, I don't know what to do about this, because I like when people give me constructive feedback, when they're pushing back against me, because that's like, I'm just learning about a lot of these topics. I'm just trying to explore into them and trying to take that learner attitude. So like, I always really appreciate when people know more than me, or when they have a slightly different take on it, so I can be like, okay, let's see, let me just check myself there and see if I can expand my knowledge in this direction. So I usually really appreciate constructive criticism. I don't think this was constructive criticism. That's kind of the problem, is that this person was just weren't listening. It was like, so at first I was like, I'll leave it, because there was some really good interactions from people. And yeah, there was just one, like, there was so many comments. And then I remember just reading some people giving some really good responses, and I was like, I should leave it because there's like really good pushback. And then I just started getting like crazier and crazier comments. So there was one comment. Let me see if I can find that. So yeah, I'd responded to a comment from Nullus, and yeah, I was just like, oh, it was a different take, constructive feedback, and I was like, oh, I kind of resonate with that. That's interesting. And Cassandra Kairos responded saying, what the fuck, or WTF? Are you kidding me? All this bullshitting and now this? You resonate with this? But called Peterson a conspiracy theorist? What kind of a psychopath does this? What is wrong with you? Why are you abusing people like this? And then before that, I'd gotten another one saying he's enjoying gaslighting and abusing people just like psychopaths do. And yeah, I was just like, I couldn't be fucking bothered with this. This isn't like this part. Like, there's like 40 comments, and I was just like, this person isn't listening. It's just like this wall of ideology that this person's pushing back, and I was just like, it's nice to have a bit of a debate. But on the other hand, like, one person taking up so much, like, this person was like commenting more, probably took as much time for me. No, that's not true, but like, they were put a lot of time into writing these responses, and yeah, I felt a little bit bad deleting them, but I was also just like, this is not adding anything to the video. And yeah, and what's weird is that there was other comments and from Cassandra Kairos being like talking about Daniel Schmachtenberger and John Vervaeke, and I was just like, how can this person be like, I love Daniel Schmachtenberger, I'm a big fan of John Vervaeke, and I'm just like, how can someone, man, it's obvious, like, so how can someone be into these people who I think are just like amazing, and then also just be like nuts, just like really just caught in shadow projection. It's so strange. So I think I triggered something there, so I blocked the person, and I'm still not sure how I feel about that. Like, I'd be curious to get your guys' take on it, because I'm just like, should I have done that? And yeah, so I did it anyway, and then like later that week, I've started putting videos on Facebook, on the Facebook page, and just shared it into this Kierkegaard Kafka existentialist group, and I got this comment back from Cassandra, Cassandra. It's actually, yeah, obviously their name on Facebook isn't that, and I'm not going to put their name here just because some respect for privacy and all that. But yeah, so I got this comment saying, do not be fooled, this is Marxist propaganda. The video was postmodernism versus modernity versus postmodernity. It's like, do not be fooled by this. Do not be fooled by this is Marxist propaganda. Paul Pot was trained in blah 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 blah. James Cusson will report you if you post anything that has a dissenting opinion contrary to his own Marxist ideology. James particularly loathes Jordan Peterson, who pulls back the veil of postmodernism for what it truly is, a communist training ground for elitists. James Cusson wants you to believe that Western society is flawed. He moves you in the direction of a postmodernist utopia that leaves out its roots in Marxism and communism. Again, do not be fooled. Go ahead and report me again, James. Coward. Censorship is just another tool of Marxism and communism. So charming as ever. And I got another, creepily enough, I got another message in Facebook So I got like a personal message from this person being like, why did you report me? Or no, it was like, what? Yeah, hold on a sec. I'll see if I can get it. So yeah, it slipped into my DMs with the line, you reported my post talking about Jordan Peterson as spam. If you were so sure of yourself, why are you afraid of dissenting points of view? I think we all know why. I think we all know why. So yeah, that's Cassandra Kairos. That was it's pretty interesting interaction. It was a bit weird. So yeah, I don't know. I like dissent, but on the other hand, it's just like, I also like, having balanced, back and forth, and this person just was not. So yeah, I feel weird about it. I don't really know what to do about it. Kind of, there's another milestone there where someone has slipped into, I've gotten kind of like personal. So that's interesting. So yeah, and that's probably enough about. It's a cool name, Cassandra Kairos, right? Because Cassandra is the ancient, in the Iliad. Cassandra is like this prophet it's a high priestess, I think, a Trojan one, and she's cursed with the gift of prophesizing true events, but it's like she's destined to never be believed. So that's the Cassandra part, and the Kairos part is also really cool because Kairos is like a moment in time. So it's like, it's contrasted with Chronos, which is measuring time in terms of like hours, days, minutes. So like we get chronological and chronicles from that. But Kairos is like moments, is like the moment when everything kind of comes together. So kairotic moments. So I guess Cassandra Kairos is like true prophecies, the time for true prophesizing. Or it's a cool name, but I'm not too mad about Cassandra Kairos because that was weird. So yeah, I don't have many regrets about hiding this person. I've unhidden them now, so maybe we'll be hearing from Cassandra Kairos again. But yeah, hopefully in a more sober form. If not, I guess I'll just get rid again. But yeah, really, I apologize for removing that context. And I know there was a lot of people that like put a lot of time into like pushing back against this person, so that was kind of the reason why I wanted to leave the comments. But yeah, I decided to just get rid. But I'd like to thank Jess L, Colin Freeson, Guy Dude, Pipeline 73, Aaron Sibylla, Baron Munchausen, Frank McManus, and Dan H for kind of like really getting into the weeds with Cassandra Kairos. And like I really enjoyed your interactions. I thought it was illuminating. So I really appreciate that, and I'm sorry to have taken the context away from the debate, but yeah, I just kind of felt like this isn't really what I want my channel to be about. So yeah, that's enough about Cassandra Kairos. Let's talk about Jordan Peterson. And what I guess I was trying to do with this video. So something that I wanted to do with this video, and something that I want to do with the channel in general, is to not be drawn into polarities, to not be drawn into this demonization of the other side. I really want to show that you can be a massive fan of both Jordan Peterson and Jacques Derrida, and that the antidote to polarity is something like curiosity. So whatever you feel like the other side is evil, like the other side is truly, like almost a conspiracy level evil, then you want to treat that with suspicion. You want to get curious, be like, well, I love there's a saying that Ken Wilber has, where no one is smart enough to be wrong all of the time. So it's about finding out what are people seeing in this other side. Why is this so valuable? Because if other people are rallying around something, then there's some value there. So I'm trying to cultivate that attitude of curiosity, and just go in where other people are kind of like, where there's a bit of tension, and be like, well, let's get in here and like, let's get curious about it, rather than succumbing to polarities and just hatred. So that is something that I think I try and do in my life in general, but also it's something intellectually I think is a good exercise to do, especially now. So there's something that I've been playing around with and all this, and that's kind of looking at it through a developmental lens. And I think a developmental lens is a good way to kind of like, to be like, oh, there must be something of value in here. There must be something new going on here. And when Peterson talks about like the gulags as being the ultimate counter argument to communism, and like, to me that doesn't really work, because if you look at the birth of modernity, or the real emergence of modernity, the way that people talk about postmodernism isn't a million miles from the way that like the traditionalists, the church and the old establishment would have talked about these new Enlightenment era values. And then you had the French Revolution, which, like, I just finished Andrew Roberts' biography of Napoleon, and I just didn't realize how bloody the French Revolution. Like, I knew about Robespierre's reign of terror, but I didn't realize how much power just jumped back and forth, and you just didn't know where you stood. And I guess it's because that was a Nietzschean revaluation of all values. It was a complete flip, and so there was no solid ground. And so they'd moved from this traditionalist mindset into this new era, and all of a sudden the fight for what the value system was going to be was just causing so much instability. And if the Jacobins got power, there was just heads were rolling. If the other side got power, heads were rolling. And yeah, it was just a complete shit show. And yet we don't look at that and the destruction of the French Revolution and the amount of people executed and the letting of blood that was the Napoleonic Wars over Europe. We tend not to think of that in the same category as the gulags, but it's the gulags and the concentration camps are just an extra century of technology added on top. I think if we're going to go after communism for the gulags, we also have to be mindful of what happened with the Enlightenment and studying the French Revolution and seeing how much blood there was. And I think that these massive lettings of blood are to do as much with revolution. And long-time viewers of the channel will remember my video on Camus versus Sartre, where I just couldn't reconcile myself to Sartre's like belief in revolution and at the ends justifying the means, and being much more of a fan of Camus. And I think that's the same thing here, is that like I think that revolution is necessary sometimes. I think that the American rebellion against the British and the French Revolution, I think that we needed something to shake off the stupor of traditionalism and to move into the era of modernity. And that while revolution is a part of the story, I just think it's just dangerous to have an ideology of revolution. And I think that is the thing we should be mindful of, and it should be a last resort. And I'm not saying it's never necessary, but it's revolution ends in blood. Like there's so much trouble, and especially for ones like the communist revolution or for the French Revolution, because it's this transformation of the values that were there before, and that seems like an incredibly dangerous thing. And that's where I see Nietzsche's warning about God's death coming in. And it's, if we don't have this grounding of universal valuation and how that shifts things, like if you move away from that value system and you have nihilism, then before those new values settle in, which I think will always happen, it's always going to be a new value system that forms. It's in that void, it just gets filled with blood, and that's something we have to be very careful of. And I don't know if we can be careful of it. But yeah, I guess that's my ramblings on revolution for the day. I guess if we've learned anything from this video, so Jordan Peterson's kind of controversial. He's a divisive character, and yeah, as much as I'm a fan of him, it's just like over the years, it's just like, damn, you are not healing the wounds in society. You are just like making this deeper. You're just driving a bigger and bigger wedge. And is it a surprise, I guess, if someone is like has been picked up that much by the algorithm, that they would in fact be driving divisiveness and driving the polarization, because that's what gets clicks, I guess. And it kind of obscures the message of personal responsibility and of the mythopoetical neo-Jungian sort of vibe that he's got going in Maps of Meaning. So it's become increasingly clear that he's just causing greater and greater polarization in society, and that's very far from being ideal. And I don't think that's what we need. So I think this whole discourse of just like hatred of the left is just like, it's just so unhelpful. And it's like, I think that there's something going on, and even Ken Wilber is talking about this back in the late 90s, is something is happening in academia, and something is having a ripple effect on into the world. And maybe that's a transformation of values in the same way that the Enlightenment era was, but it's still, there's something going on. But this discourse of like this conspiracy theory is just like muddying the waters, and it's just creating further division, and it's sowing the discord that could end up, just causing greater and greater problems. But yeah, I'm really not a fan of that. And the thing is that it's intoxicating. And this is again ties back into Nietzsche's idea of God is dead, because we have no grand meaning anymore. That grand narrative that religions give us has kind of disappeared with this age of nihilism. And so we're looking for this void, these narratives to fill that void. And Peterson's thing of the postmodern neo-Marxism is something that has acted as that kind of a grand narrative. It's this conspiracy theory that invites us to take this role in this grand battle. Like, let's make our beds, let's be the people that get our lives in order and who fight back against these postmodern neo-Marxists and stop the takeover of society. And it's ended up not being a movement around personal responsibility, but around just like this polarities of just like what's going on, like the whole social justice warrior shit. So it's an intoxicating thing, and it's this archetypal possession that I see going on, and that's the effect that Peterson has, is he gives a grand narrative that we can buy into, a grand narrative that like gives a great meaning to the world, because we're saving the values of the West, we're saving the West from great destruction. So it's that thing of the preservation of order against the chaos, and very Petersonian language to use for that, because that's exactly what this is. It's turned into this mythological narrative, and that's so far away from just the idea of like, it's none of your, not that it's none of your business, but just like focus on what's within the realm of your control. It's interesting because I went to Dublin to see Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris when they were mediated by Douglas Murray a few years ago, and there was an interesting part of that talk where they were discussing how you need the left and the right, because you need that tug back and forth. And they were talking about the subject of immigration and how if the right had all the control, then the country would stagnate because there'd be no fresh blood coming in. But if the left wing had all the control, then there'd be too many people coming in, so there'd be too low of a bar of immigration, and then it would make the situation worse for everyone, I guess. So it's that interesting thing of like, you need that tug of war, because it's like, well, we need some people to come in, and it's just like this pull back and forth, which creates a sort of a balance. And you just don't see Peterson, you see Peterson like demonizing the other side, and it's frustrating, because you're like, well, you're admitting the need for both sides, but you're complaining so much about the other side that you're like, I just can't get behind that. And it's just like, well, like, we need that tension, but when the sides are becoming further and further apart, it becomes much more risky. It becomes much more of a risk of that connection snapping and just turning into two different sides, rather than this steering, that like oars on different side of the ship. So what I wanted to do with the video then was I wanted to try and bridge between the polarities, or to find a ground in the middle of the polarities, and to show that the polarization is in itself a sort of an illusion, is a sort of, a casting up of shadows, and that if we can, just calm down, then we can see that the other side, everyone's a human. Everyone's just trying to like do their best, and everyone's trying to make the most sense of the world and make the world a better place. And yeah, I guess if you're doing that, you're always going to run into people that disagree. You're always going to run into kind of a sharp wall there, and that's the nature of the polarized thing. But there's this great saying that one of my favorite commenters on the channel, Michael McClure, said, is from a Yeats poem, one of my favorite Yeats poems, called The Second Coming, which I might do a video on at some point. It's so epic. But the last line of the first stanza is the best lack all conviction, and the worst are full of passionate intensity. And yeah, can you think of truer words at this time? Because it's just the people who are. And it's interesting because that poem is all about the second coming, and it's actually more of a stirring of the Antichrist than it is, the second coming of Christ. And it's 20 centuries of stony sleep have been shaken off. So it's this, to me, that's the call of nihilism waking up after so long, and the darkness that comes with that. And yeah, so in these times, in these kind of like crazy times, the best lack all conviction. And that reminds me of like the Taoist saying that what is it? He who says does not know, and he who knows does not say. And it's that thing of like in times of such uncertainty, the best are crippled by self-doubt. It's like a neurotic level of self-doubt, because you're like, there's so much to know, there's so much complexity that I'm afraid to say anything, because I'm afraid that it's going to be wrong. And I guess that's the meta-modern thing of like, well, you have to try. You can't just give up. You can't just rest in irony. You need to go out there and try and create a narrative and let it get smashed, and then build a better one, and keep just building better ones. So it's this iterative process of trying to get closer and closer to truth, knowing that it's always going to be partial. So that's why the best lack all conviction, and then the worst are full of passionate intensity, and that seems to be the nature of the polarized discourse of people are so certain. Like Jordan Peterson is so certain, and people on the other side are so certain, and it only, when you are that certain in yourself, then the only rational explanation is the other side is evil. Like this Cassandra Kairos person saying that, like, that I'm my Marxist ideology, and that I'm trying to, like, that I seem to be part of the conspiracy. And it's just like, well, if you could question yourself for a minute, if you could have some self-doubt, if you could take a moment, then maybe something else could emerge. But that's not going to happen, because I guess that's the nature of the times. There's a need for certainty, and then there's, if you can manage it, to try and say nothing, or to try and like hold your beliefs lightly, and to be able to be curious about the other side and not so certain about your own. So, I mean, I don't know how much I'm doing that. Maybe I have blind spots. I definitely have blind spots, but I think it's just trying to act in good faith and trying to act in a way that is not increasing polarization. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of everything that I had to say about this video. It's one of the core things that I think that the living philosophy is about, which is this idea of trying to move away from the polarities and trying to find the nuanced point of view in the middle, the controversial middle. Reminds me of that, what is it called? Social dilemma? The extreme centrists. So yeah, even the term centrist has become like loaded. Anyway, so that's everything that I guess I have to say about this video. I don't know. This was very much a lot of me rambling, so let me know what you thought of it. Let me know if you got anything from it, if you like this type of content. I don't know if it'll try and make it more structured in future. This was kind of just something that I thought I would just experiment with. I've been thinking about it for a while and wanting to do the Ken Wilber, the 4 quadrants video. Right, I thought this was a good opportunity to try it out. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give the video a thumbs up down below, and I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. And as ever, I would like to thank our patrons. Special shout out to Shane, and thank you to all the other patrons for the support. It's something that's really cool, and I'm coming to see Patreon as more and more potentially like a center of a community. So that's been something that's really cool. I really appreciate the support, and if you want to get involved in Patreon, you can head over to the link will be in the description, patreon.com/livingphilosophy, and you can get your name in the credits. You can get access to these videos earlier, I think, scripts earlier, and yeah, some other goodies there as well. So yeah, I just want to thank you all for, if you've watched this long, then I hope you've enjoyed it, and I shall see you next time. Thank you for watching.